What's up, internet? Just thought I would show you my licitti battery box and review it a little bit and show you some of the modifications I made. So this is the 1000-watt Pro box. I turned it into a 2000-watt box for some strange reason. It was a long learning process, which I don't know that I would necessarily repeat, but here's where I am now. So first thing I did was I pulled out the solar charge controller. It's pretty dinky, and I upgraded it with this Victron 50 amp guy. With an ammo box with some louver ventilation, and that seems to do a pretty good job. Up to 700 watts of solar. Next thing I did was I added a 200 amp Anderson connector with 2-gauge wire. Now you notice there's a 175 in here. This is also a 175. I wanted to be able to run a bigger inverter, and the 4-gauge wiring in here just wasn't cutting it. It's also not fused. It runs through this dinky switch. A lot of reasons not to use that port for 175 amps that it's supposed to be rated for. But now I've got this going straight to the battery, and I can pull 2000 watts. Next thing I did, I put in a shunt with a screen. This is an incredibly accurate battery shunt. It's more accurate than the BMS and the battery itself, I think, and I really like it. It's definitely overkill, but you know, I'm already going crazy on this thing. I might as well just go all the way. Another thing I did was this primer button here. So the capacitors inside of this inverter unit, when you first turn it on, they charge up, and they actually faulted my old battery out several times, which I didn't really like. It causes a big arc in this switch, which will destroy the contacts in your switch. It's just not a good thing to have an inverter connected to a switch like that. So yeah, I have a 10 ohm resistor here, and it gently primes and fills those capacitors. Thought that was cool. Let's see. I can show you the inside here. Why did I add this other inverter? Well, I like the idea of redundancy, and also wanted the option to be able to cook and use other high draw devices. This 1000-watt inverter, it's pretty decent. It puts out clean power. It'll put out 1000 watts no problem. It does generate a lot of heat inside. I did actually find the board that it is composed of. I also found an off-the-shelf inverter sold on Amazon that uses the same board, has an identical screen, and it looks like it fails under heavy use, frequent use. So, you know, whatever. I wanted some backup options here, but inside I actually used Licitti's battery kit, and I like it. It's a really high quality kit. It comes with a good BMS, good cells, but they did not mention that it needed top balancing. I'm a little bit upset about that, but I ended up top balancing it myself, and I guess they just assumed you would know how to do it, but the instructions just completely glazed over that. But now that I've top balanced it, I'm getting a really good capacity out of it. It's a great battery. I added in a 200 amp fuse here. There were no fuses in this. I mean, there are fuses in this box, but like this Anderson port is not fused, for example. The original one wasn't fused. It's not cool. There's my 200 amp shunt. My sketchy battery terminals, they're actually crimped really tightly. They don't get hot at all, but yeah, they are bent pretty bent, and there's no heat shrink tubing. But whatever, it works, and I don't care. I think they're pretty snug. That's the inside of that guy, and that's my unit. think it definitely could have spent a little more on an EcoFlow. Spent a lot less trouble and time. But, you know, the EcoFlow has a 5-year warranty. Something breaks on it, then you gotta file a claim. This, I can just fix it myself and upgrade it as I want to. I probably wouldn't do that. Whatever. For what it's worth, it was a fun project. I've got a 3,000 watt hour battery backup with 2,000 watt inverter, and yeah, that's all that really matters. So I encourage everyone else out there to have fun and experiment. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this unit unless you don't plan on pulling 1,000 watts from it, because I think that would stress it out pretty quickly. The switch is dinky and it gets warm, and it's not cool. So yeah, there you have it, the City battery box.